Hi, my name is Ret Talbot and I'm coming to you today from the Philippines, where I'm reporting on the marine aquarium trade and marine aquarium data as a special report to Reefs.com. Behind me here is one of two facilities in the Philippines where marine aquarium trade exporters come to file their paperwork before the shipments leave the country. The facility is called the One-Stop Export Documentation Center, or OSEDC, and it is ground zero for marine aquarium trade data here in the Philippines. Let's go inside and take a look at what happens there.
Staff from 5 government agencies process export documents for fishery and other animal and plant products at the One-Stop Export Documentation Center. BFAR, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, handles most fishery exports, including live food fish, shellcraft, and other animals exported for the curio trade, and aquarium fishes. The process for an exporter begins with filling out the Export Commodity Clearance Document, or ECC. Often this is typed on a manual typewriter. The ECC and other paperwork, including a pro forma invoice, are then submitted to BFAR staff, and the export fee is assessed. For marine aquarium fishes, the export fee is 1% of the export value. Once the fee is assessed, the exporter's name is entered into the logbook, and a unique ECC number is assigned to the paperwork. BFAR staff then issue a signed order of payment slip to the exporter, so he or she can pay the export fee. Export fees are paid to a specialized government bank called the Land Bank of the Philippines, or LBP. Fisherfolk represent one of LBP's primary sectors. BFAR staff then check to make sure that the information on the pro forma invoice and ECC document match. Because the pro forma invoice is essentially a preliminary bill of sale indicating the maximum number of species and individual animals that may be exported in the shipment, it does not necessarily represent the value of the actual shipment once it is packed and shipped. During the review process, BFAR staff perform a line-by-line review of the pro forma invoice and check it against the ECC. They account for each species listed and ensure it is legal for export. In addition, they also look for incorrect or mismatched species names. For U.S. exports, a final invoice will be produced by the exporter and submitted to U.S. importers along with the shipment. It is this final invoice that is archived by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service upon import to the U.S., and upon which the data in aquariumtradedata.org is based. Finally, the paper goes through one last review before the ECC is stamped. The exporter now has 1 month to export the shipment. All paperwork is then archived by BFAR in a paper form for several years. As part of a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, signed between New England Aquarium's president, Dr. Angela Hilgarth, and the Philippine Undersecretary for Fisheries, Aziz Perez, in March of 2015, Dr. Andrew Ryan and Rob Holmberg traveled to the Philippines to observe the export process and implement the data collection tools described in the previous video. Dr. Ryan told me in an interview after his visit that he was impressed by what he saw at the One-Stop Export Documentation Center in Manila.
It's a very impressive operation in Manila and Cebu on how they process this data. They're very interested in helping exporters expedite their process. They have a very sophisticated process that is pretty expeditious. An exporter can walk in to the one-stop shop and about an hour later walk out with their export permit that has gone through significant review. So we're hoping to be able to kind of improve that process on both sides, maybe speed things up, maybe improve the data collections.
In order to further improve the process, Dr. Ryan and Mr. Holmberg brought with them a document scanner and customized software that will allow BFAR to begin to implement a data collection process similar to the one used to create aquariumtradedata.org. Before installing the new technology and training BFAR staff to use it, Dr. Ryan gave a presentation to explain the project, its origins, and its value to both BFAR and the aquarium trade in general.
Okay, so I want to thank you very much for having us here. We're very excited about this project, and we've been working on this since 2012. We first started working with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the U.S. government, in 2012 to work on this project. They gave us approval, and then the NOAA lawyers and the BFAR lawyers had to go back and forth for a while and discuss, and then your director, right, the fisheries chief, Ret, right? So he came to Boston and he signed a document, the MOU, to get this started in February. Okay, and so I asked the exporters. I said, who was the most important supply country in the world to the United States for marine ornamental fish? And you can see that it's the Philippines. The Philippines supply the majority of the fish, the marine fish to the United States and probably to the entire world. So the Philippines is probably the dominant country in the entire world for marine ornamental fish, okay, by a lot. And that's why we're here, because you're the most important supply country in the world for aquarium fish. Yes.
As the most important supply country for the marine aquarium trade, the Philippines has a lot of valuable trade data. Unfortunately, most of those data currently exist only in paper form and are not easily accessible. Dr. Ryan explained to BFAR staff how he and other scientists can use data when they are available.
We take data and we make accurate assessments, right? Some people do not like the aquarium trade, and so they take data and they publish things to maybe help pass laws in the U.S. to make it much harder to import animals, right? So what we do is we look at the data and we publish accurate assessments, okay? And then the government can use our assessments to ensure that species are protected, okay?
In order to produce accurate assessments on the marine aquarium trade, data need to be accessible. This is why a primary objective of Dr. Ryan's and Mr. Holmberg's current trip to the Philippines is about streamlining data collection and, most important, digitizing those data.
So we brought BFAR scanners that are specially designed to scan batches of documents very quickly. And so when we set the scanners up, we optimize them to give us sufficient image quality in a reasonable amount of time. So I think we settled on 300 dpi, and it's still quick enough that it can just run through the pages like,
In the next segment, we'll talk about why good image quality is so important and how the digital documents will be received and processed back at Roger Williams University. In the last couple segments of this series, we talked a lot about process and how the data will be collected, but it's critically important not to lose sight of why the data are being collected and how important they really are.
Whether anyone likes it or not, we're in a new reality of ecosystem health, really, from a lot of global pressures, and ensuring that the aquarium trade is a solution to healthy ecosystems and not an adversary or a threat is going to be essential. And I think the only way to do that, or the way to start with that, is trade data. If we don't have accurate trade data, we can't get back to some of these other issues.
We'll be getting back to these and other issues and how the data can inform them in subsequent segments of this video series on the marine aquarium trade and marine aquarium trade data, produced as a special report to Reefs.com. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to include them below or reach out to me directly at ret@rettalbot.com. I'm Ret Talbot, reporting from the Philippines. Thanks for watching.